Welcome to the land of ScreenRant viewers. You want adventure time?
Adventure time!
We'll give you a plethora of facts about your favorite show that will change the way you thought Finn, Jake, Princess Bubblegum, and the rest. We'll also go behind the scenes into Pendleton Ward's writer's room and beyond. Add all these facts up, and you got yourself a mathematical video. First and foremost, let's start with the opening credits. While the animation sets up the world we're about to enter, the weird, wonderful, and fantastic land of in all its post-apocalyptic splendor, sure, the animation looks professional, but the opening theme song has some imperfections. That's because it's the temp track that Pendleton Ward recorded for the pilot. The funny thing is, he tried re-recording a more perfect version, but he could never get it to sound as good as this, so he decided to keep it. If you listen closely, you can hear keyboard typing as Jake is walking with outstretched legs.
To very distant lands.
That is producer Derek Dryman working while Ward was recording. The original pilot for Adventure Time was created for Nickelodeon and was made following creator Pendleton Ward's success with working on the team of The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Shut your blowhole, boy!
Yet Nickelodeon missed the boat on this because they passed on the chance to run Adventure Time, not once, but twice. They reportedly thought Adventure Time was too weird for their target children demographic, and let's be honest, while it's weird as heck, is it really that much weirder than Rocko's Modern Life or SpongeBob? Ironically, Tom Kenny, famed voice actor whose work includes voicing Spongebob Squarepants, has gone on to voice many of Adventure Time's crazy characters.
Where's Gunter, my beautiful child that I love?
While Pendleton Ward's creation may have been too odd for Nick executives, it wasn't too crazy for their talent. And while we're on the subject of voices, the reason Adventure Time has found so much success is because of its voice talent. They take the material seriously and present their characters honestly. Take Jake, for instance, the laid-back dog with a heart of gold. He is voiced by veteran talent John DiMaggio. You may know one of his most famous characters as Bender from Futurama.
Bite my shiny metal.
Though he's a robot in Futurama and a dog in Adventure Time, both characters have similar personas of casual dudes who don't sweat the small stuff. Finn is the audience surrogate. He's the kid we look to, whose experience in the crazy land of makes it all make sense to us. While he's voiced as if he's a normal kid, his look matches another fantastical creation from Pendleton Ward. And that is a character by the name of Bueno the Bear. They share the same physical profile, with a rectangular body shape and those wide-set ears. Even though Bueno is literally a bear and Finn is just a kid wearing a bear-shaped hood. Later in the series, Finn, looking for a new hat, Jake suggests they go skin a bear in a nod to Bueno the Bear. Adventure Time is full of personal connections to its creator, Pendleton Ward, because, well, the guy created it. He majored in animation at Cal Arts, where many famous and successful animators got their start. Walt Disney was one of the university's original benefactors after all. And Pendleton almost made Adventure Time even more personal by naming the main character Pen instead of Finn. And Ward had second thoughts after realizing that it would be weird to see his own name on the back of sweatpants and on the Adventure Time merchandise he dreamed of seeing before the show became successful in its own right. Season 5 of Adventure Time taught us a few big things about the characters, particularly the episode Simon and Marcy. In that installment, we learned that the Ice King was once a man named Simon Petrikov, and he had known the 1,000-year-old vampire Marceline previously. This backstory came about because the creative team realized that these two characters hadn't really interacted before, and they used this episode to explain why. Ironically, the voice actors behind these two characters, Tom Kenny and Olivia Olson, have also known each other for a long time. While Kenny never sacrificed himself for Olson the way the Ice King does for Marceline, Kenny has known Olson since she was but a wee child. Her dad used to play piano at a club where Kenny performed comedy. Let's move on to Princess Bubblegum. Since it was revealed that Bubblegum also goes by Bonnabelle, we've only really heard her referred to under this name by Marceline.
Hello, Bonnabelle.
Which works since both ladies are actually very old. She was birthed from a pink soup 1,000 years ago, even though she's actually around 827 years old. Bubblegum has the ability to change a candy's biomass and thus change her age in the process. And while her name may be Bubblegum and Bonnabelle, Pendleton originally called her Betty, after his mother, even though he quickly changed his mind. Probably much like how he changed the lead character's name from Pen to Finn. He didn't want to get too personal with the names on the show. Bill Murray is having his moment. Everyone loves the guy, and he's a national treasure.
I love you, Bill. I love you.
And while he's been having a renaissance for the past 20 years in some great indie films and stylized Wes Anderson comedies, it's the classic Bill Murray of the 1970s and 80s that serves as the inspiration for Jake's character, particularly his role in the 80s classic Meatballs. Pendleton Ward has gone on the record saying he imagines Jake to be much like Murray from the aforementioned film. He's a 20-something mentor who gives terrible advice. Even though Jake is a dog and Murray is a goofball human, we get what they're going for. It's often said that the Land of Ooo isn't necessarily a fantasy world that exists in an alternate universe. Rather, it's a post-apocalyptic world set in the future, far ahead of our own time. This idea first became evident to fans in the Season 1 episode, Business Time. Ward has stated himself that the episode, which featured men in business suits surfacing from a frozen lake, made him keenly aware that this world is not a sword and sorcery and candy kind of place, but a kind of post-nuclear winter hodgepodge of insanity. It changed the show for good, and made it an incredibly unique and kinda screwed up setting for a kid's show. Whether you were aware of it or not, it definitely makes things more interesting than your average cartoon. And that post-apocalyptic theme is all laid out for us in the opening credits. The theme and the images that accompany it perfectly set up the Land of Ooo. We also see a slight hint at the doom, gloom, explosions, and horror that preceded the magic that we see in the present-day Land of Ooo. There are nuclear bombs and a severed arm to be found in the opening sequence, and fans have theorized that the Great Mushroom War, which began in the 1980s, was a horrible nuclear holocaust. And Finn's arm, which was lost for parts of the series, is a mirroring of Shoko, one of his past lives, who lost her own arm when her parents used it to barter for a computer. So we know Bubblegum pretty well, but there are many other princesses in the Land of Ooo. They're just undocumented. In keeping with the show's fantasy theme, we see a ton of princesses throughout the show.
Hello, Princess. Hey, Embryo Princess.
Except for Dr. Princess, who isn't exactly considered royalty. One user on Pinterest applauded Adventure Time because it gave every girl the opportunity to believe that no matter how they looked or where they came from, they could be a princess too. Rule 63 is followed to a T in Adventure Time, in which for every character there's another character with a matching personality of a different gender. But Adventure Time takes this a step further by confirming female versions of the characters actually do exist within the Adventure Time continuity. This is shown in the episode Fiona and Cake, in which Fiona, the female version of Finn, and Cake, the female version of Jake, work with Prince Gumball to prep for the biennial Gumball Ball. Let's face it, the Adventure Time cast is stacked from top to bottom with colorful characters, crazy names, and a ton of diversity. In order to meet the demands of this massive group of personalities, the show's creative team have called upon some amazing talents in the cartoon voice acting world and beyond. But Pendleton Ward held out hope for some of his personal favorite actors as well. Since he and his co-workers have much love for shows like The Office and Star Trek The Next Generation, which have big followings in their own right, Ward went on the record saying he'd want to eventually have all the stars from The Office and all the stars of Star Trek to guest on Adventure Time.
Engage.
And got his wish partially true when actors like Reed Bratton, Rainn Wilson, and LeVar Burton guest starred on multiple episodes. While Ward held out for some big-time names to guest on his show, and although he served as the ultimate puppet master behind the scenes, his voice talent appears on the show as well. Of all characters, Ward has voiced Lumpy Space Princess, or LSP for short. The chair of princesses may not have recognized her as official royalty due to the fact that she wasn't the heir to the Lumpy Space throne for a time, and a Lumpy Space Princess went off to live in the wilderness. She did eventually become Queen of Lumpy Space though, so good for her. Despite her royal title, Ward has stated his favorite character on the show is BMO, the sentient video game interface. Fans of Riverdale might sense a similar character dynamic on Adventure Time. Finn is often facing similar relationship issues to the classic comic book character Archie. Whether you know the popular Riverdale show or the decades-old classic comic on which it's based, Archie was often stuck in a love triangle with Betty and Veronica. Pendleton Ward has stated these classic characters were an influence on the evolution we see behind the relationships between Finn, Princess Bubblegum, and other women in Finn's life. Now, if only Riverdale could have some kind of mushroom war and get extra weird as a result, then we might have something extra to work with. Until then, we'll need to settle for the only kind of weird, very dramatic version that currently airs on the CW. The good thing about Adventure Time is that its theme and style, which frequently embraces weird and wild choices, allows it a lot of freedom, both with its creativity and general production values. Take the lead voice actor, for instance. Zach Shada originally voiced Finn in the pilot and nailed the character's voice.
Whoa!
Unfortunately, in the time it took for the pilot to get picked up to series, Zach Shada grew up and his voice changed noticeably. Luckily, Zach's brother, Jeremy, spoke with a voice that sounded nearly identical to the elder Shada. Jeremy's voiced Finn from the start of the show, and for the rest of the series, everything's worked out swimmingly. Can you imagine anyone else playing the part? As we said before, Ward's favorite character of all is BMO. But unlike Lumpy Space Princess, Pendleton does not provide the voice. Instead, actor Nikki Yang gives life to BMO. She also provides the pipes behind Lady Rainicorn. Yang nails this part, and she's able to add authenticity to Lady Rainicorn's Korean dialogue. The character does speak in Korean, and while non-speakers might have a hard time understanding her, the Adventure Time wiki provides translations to those of you who have been curious as to what Rainicorn's sayings mean. You can head over to that site or just find the Korean version of the show. There, Rainicorn's original Korean dialogue is spoken in English. That way you can finally appreciate all the sweet nothings that Princess Bubblegum's royal steed provides to her boyfriend Jake. Animation might seem like a fun, cushy job for the voice actors lucky enough to get cast. You get to show up, record your dialogue in a few hours, and if the show is really successful, you get to reap tons of benefits. However, it requires a lot of precision and talent, least of which is getting your readings right while your fellow actors are not in the room. To save on money and scheduling, most animated shows record their actors separately. Adventure Time, on the other hand, tries to get their cast to connect and bond with each other as much as possible. In keeping with their reputation as a unique cartoon show, Adventure Time has most of their actors record the show in the same room. And that dynamic is something we can definitely hear on the screen. While we all wish we could step into the land of Ooh for even just a day or two, it doesn't exist in our own world. Or does it? Adventure Time actually has its own theme park. You have to travel to Thailand to get there, but if you're a big enough fan and you don't live in Thailand already, it's probably worth the trip. The rides and adventures available in this attraction are actually part of a larger Cartoon Network theme park called Amazon Water Park. It features water slides shaped like Jake and plush characters that interact with patrons, proving that this show has a universal appeal. With a theme park, a high-speed rail, and a ton of promotional tie-ins, there are many Adventure Time-themed materials floating around our lives. Not even counting the show. Fanmade Material makes up a large amount of Adventure Time media you can consume online. Cast members have divulged what their favorite fan-made stuff is, and they come across these fan art, videos, and songs all the time. Voice actor John DiMaggio's personal favorite Adventure Time fan thing is a mashup of Empire State of Mind and the song Bacon Pancakes. Look it up online and judge for yourself. The Adventure Time team may have replaced Zach Shada with his brother Jeremy, but other than that big change, which occurred around the same time of the pilot and was seamless, no major changes have occurred since. This is thanks to Pendleton Ward and company's decisions to allow their child voice talent to naturally grow old without really replacing them. They wanted the characters to grow older too, which allowed the show to grow and change with it. This decision kept things from getting too repetitive and ensured Adventure Time remained fresh from start to finish. When Finn's voice cracks as the series progresses, it helps the show seem more authentic. So, if you take anything away from this video, it's the fact that Adventure Time has a huge and active fan community. And you, as an Adventure Time fan yourself, can easily become a part of it. But if you want to make a mark, you'll probably need to make your own episode. Or at least your own anime episode. One quick search on YouTube would lead you to a Fanime production made in 3D. And if you're wondering why Adventure Time hasn't sued them, well, the Adventure Time team seems pretty chill. And this likely falls under fair use as parody anyway. Plus, while these anime knockoffs try to match the characters' personalities, the style of animation just might be different enough for it to slide by without legal scrutiny. What makes this show so popular? Well, it's got a killer voice cast and a unique style, but it also has a loose and fun writing process. When they develop the story for a given episode, they often would play games to explore unique angles of our favorite characters. Pendleton Ward often compares it to a game of Dungeons & Dragons, with strategizing that allows the team to give their characters interesting motivations and decisions. They'd play a game where the writers would each be given 2 minutes. One would draw an illustration, the next writer would need to write the first act based on the picture, the next writer would need to write the second act, and so on. Then they'd use that as a basis for an episode's story. While these types of games seem like simple and fun ways to put a story together,
Don't squeeze me apart.
it still takes 9 months for an episode to be produced. Not only do the writers need time to devise the plot, they need to coordinate with the production staff, the animators, the colorists, the voice cast, and the director to put it all together. And of course, they're working on multiple episodes at a time, so it doesn't take them years to complete a single season. The biggest fact of all, well, there just might be hope for a live-action adaptation. The land of Oz still has a lot to offer its audiences, and the characters living inside of it. Adam Muto, the Adventure Time showrunner who took over after Pendleton Ward left the show following Season 5, has gone on the record saying he'd be down for a live-action movie. This was said after a fan-made trailer hit the internet that set online viewers crazy with a live-action prospect. Muto went on to say that he'd love to see someone like Guillermo del Toro direct, taking Finn and Jake's story in an entirely new and crazy direction. And slam bam in a can, that's the end of this video, but the start of something new. Keep watching to check out the next video from your pals at ScreenRant for Adventure Time and all your other fave cartoons. Speaking of Adventure Time, is there anything we missed? Are there any new facts that need to be spoken? Let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you around soon. Algebraic!